Welcome to First Namesake. We're glad that you're here. I'm Valentine. These are my parents, Mike and Martina. And a few months ago, or a couple months ago, they did a video on how they met. And today we'll be talking about what a godly marriage looks like. Especially if there's any singles out there who are desiring marriage. I think this would be a good video for you guys. So, you both ready?
Sure.
Well, for starters, for those who didn't watch that video, how many years have you been married?
Not a clue.
32.
Wow, that's a long time.
And it'll be 33 in July of this year.
That's great. Now, they were friends first, like that video said, but before you both met, were there any characteristics of a spouse that you were looking for? Or godly traits?
Me, personally, not really, no. I was just lonely.
Oh. And I was a new Christian, so I wanted someone that was going to love Jesus. And at that time I was interested in missions, so I was hoping that my husband-to-be would go into the mission field with me. That's what I was looking for at first.
And did you go through marriage counseling, and would you recommend it?
Yes, we went through marriage counseling, about a day's worth.
I thought it was a week.
It wasn't that long.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Anyway, I think our pastor just assumed we would be fine and know everything. But I would suggest going through a whole course. You know, take your time, don't rush through it, and that way you're prepared, you know, more prepared for marriage than we were.
And before you got married, did you both discuss who was going to be in charge of the finances, how to raise the kids, who's going to be the spiritual household, or was that more of a gradual thing as you got married?
That was more gradual. Right?
I think it was more gradual.
We both kind of learned together, I think. But Mike was working as a farmer at the time, and so I was in charge of the budget for a long time, and I'm not good with money, so that was not a good decision on either one of our parts. I should have never been in charge of money. So I think at that point maybe he should have, but he couldn't because he was farming all the time. Those are long days of farming, and so I would be at home and I'd go and spend money that he worked for. And so in a marriage, you should be talking about finances together. One should not be in charge, and then, I mean, if you're going to be in charge, I don't know, I feel like you need to be together on this. I've heard of separate banking accounts, and I'm sorry, I totally disagree with that. As a married couple, especially in a Christian married couple, there needs to be a bank account that you share together. It has both of your names on the check that you're going to write out. I feel like that's a proper way of doing things. That's just me.
I've heard finances is one of the reasons why couples break up and divorce. So, given that, and we've, like my mom said, we're not good with money. We've had a lot of financial struggles over the years. So how did you both still stay together and try to keep God in the center of your finances? How did you use them wisely?
Well, we didn't.
Well, how did you want to use them wisely? How would you recommend to others how to use it?
Well, make a budget and stick with it. That's the main thing. Have a certain amount designated for everything that you can think of, and that way you won't have any arguments about it later.
Right, yeah. And then it got to the point where God was convicting me that I was spending too much money, really just on dumb things. Like I wanted an outdoor swimming pool that cost, at that time, this is a long time ago, so who knows what it costs today, but an outdoor swimming pool that you do yourself. Not the blow-up kind, but the fancy one with the, what do you call it, the CVC pipes and all that, but above ground swimming pool. That's what I was looking for. And back in those days, it was maybe $800 or so. But, you know, I thought, hey, you know, let's go spend some money and get that. Just things we really didn't need. Just spending money left and right. So it got to the point where I didn't like myself. I really didn't. And I just asked God to change me. And he convicted me and said, you're spending money on things you don't need. You really don't need the swimming pool. You don't need what the people next door have. It's not necessary, and it's not biblical. So at that point, God really helped me to kind of calm down on the money.
Mhm.
And I'd say that was actually kind of when Valentine was about maybe 4 or so, or 3 or 4 years old. So 4 years into the marriage, 5 years into the marriage.
Sorry for the brief interruption. We're in a disc golf park, so you're going to see quite a bit of people walking around with dogs or disc golfers. So we just talked about finances.
Mhm.
Now I'd like to ask you, how did you go about raising kids? Do you agree with like the mother taking care of the children home when the dad goes to work, or is it both and kind of thing? Like who disciplines the children, that kind of stuff.
I think it's both and.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just in experience, it just works out better that way.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when he was farming, of course, I was at home with Valentine. So yeah, whenever Mike would come home, then I would say, if they were, especially if they were fussy, I'd say, "Here, it's your turn now." I do have to admit to that. I've been with him all day, and now it's your turn, which probably wasn't right because he's been working all day. So, but in the evening, we both took turns. You know, it just depends.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, some, especially in today's time, even Christians look down upon the word submission, or submit to your husband, and husbands love your wives. Is there anything you want to share on that subject?
Well, it never has worked. She didn't listen to me anyway. So, anyway, no. I mean, it's a both and thing. You know, it does say wives submit to your husbands, but it at the same time says love your wives like Jesus did the church, and you know he died for the church, and so I'd be willing to love my wife so much to do that for her. So I just can't figure out the people who said, you know, you listen to me, you do what I say, and you know, I'm gonna buy a refrigerator, I'm gonna sell a refrigerator, and better get all the stuff out of it because somebody's gonna come and get it. So I have never understood that kind of love. That's not love.
Right.
To me, it isn't.
Yeah. And I can,
Bugs.
and I'll just, there's some
Sorry guys,
ants,
there's
yeah,
some sort of a,
ants or something.
I don't know if they bite or not.
Well, it's a dead one. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry guys.
And I started out not being very submissive, kind of a take charge person, I'd say. The one who wore the pants in the family. Not really sure why I was that way. Maybe because of my past. Had a lot of guys kind of take advantage of me and be kind of harsh towards me, so I just kind of thought, well, I need to be tough and I need to stand up for myself. That could be a reason. So a lot of times I would kind of be a little bit more bossy and with my husband, but he loves me very much, and he showed that he loved me already in the beginning because I had gone through so much abuse in my life, and he just showed me that he loved me. I mean, he would literally lay down his life for me. It was an enormous amount of love already before we even married. He was getting to know me as friends. We were best friends before we ever got married. We knew each other inside out, basically. Mm-hmm. So that's also a plus right there, is knowing your spouse before you get married.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Now in Genesis there's a verse that says, a man shall leave his father and mother, and he shall be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. In-laws. Is there anything that you want to share on that? Any past experiences, what you wish could have been different, and how you view a godly relationship at a safe distance, and yet keep your distance at the same time? You know what I'm saying? Like, love your in-laws, but there still needs to be some distance because you two are now one flesh.
Right.
Any thoughts on that?
Well, I guess, can I put up with them? But anyway. Well, this is kind of how it was, but I mean, all in-laws are different. You know, you have some controlling in-laws who want to control every part of your life. Those you kind of have to deal with on that level. So you have to they'll kind of push you away. You know, they'll make you move and go places that you've never been before, like we did. After we got married, my mother and parents and father, they basically made us leave. And so, we picked up and left and started over somewhere else. But that was very hard for us, so you have to start completely over somewhere else, another location. So we got together. We became friends later, but it was hard to do. It was some hard lessons at first. You can talk about your parents now.
Yeah, and my parents were, I could just say the parents didn't get along with the parents. The in-laws did not like the in-laws. That's one thing. Total opposites. I mean, look at me and my husband. We're total opposites. So there you have it. So that was also, they did not like each other. So if we planned a Thanksgiving dinner together, well, we only did that maybe once or twice, and it was, that was the end of that. So then we decided alternate, like do one Christmas with my family, with my parents, and then one Christmas the next year with his parents. And then, that kept going back and forth, and that gets a little tired, and then we don't get to do our own traditions, our own Thanksgiving traditions, our own Christmas traditions. So it gets to the point where you just want to do your own. And that's okay. It's okay to say to mom and dad, you know what, we're not coming this Christmas. We're going to do our own Christmas traditions for our own family. And that's where it got to that point where we would just do one with them, and then one with his parents, and then with us, and then one with them, and then the cycle would begin. But then towards the end of it all, then you just need to kind of just do your own traditions. That's important, to create your own memories with your own family, with just us together. But
Right.
but yeah, as far as my parents, I wouldn't say that they were very pushy as far as how to live, how to do things. This is how you need to discipline your children. This is how, that came more from your family. And so when he was mentioning they made us do it, they didn't say you must leave. In fact, they hated us to leave. They were like, oh no, what have we done? That's what your mother said to me. Oh no, what did we do? Oh no, that was a terrible thing. Please forgive us. But by then it was already too late. We had already made plans to move and that kind of thing. So,
Well, let's just say they were smothering.
yeah, very smothering. They'd show up at the door every day, and they tell us how to live our lives. And so those are very controlling in-laws. Be careful with those. Yeah.
And this is not to discourage you, but if you are feeling like my dad said, smothered, or your Christian walk is hindered by them, it's okay to keep a safe distance and still love them at a distance. And for other
Yeah.
in-laws, they're best friends, and it just depends on your situation, really.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about trials. And we won't go to specifics because we've been through so many trials, as I'm sure you all have too. But how did you two still stay together and not do like other couples have done and just give up through trials and tribulations? How did you keep your faith intact? Any thoughts?
Can I go first?
Go ahead.
Okay. I just want to say there's a Bible verse that says, do not let the sun go down on your anger. And so I've always taken that to heart. And every time we would have an argument, me and Mike would have an argument, or us and the kids or whatever, I'd always say, we cannot go to bed until we have all said we're sorry to each other and really mean it. And if you don't mean it and you can't say you're sorry and you're holding a grudge, then bring it to the Lord, have your time for yourself, and just pray to God and say, I just so mad at this person. God, they don't deserve forgiveness. I'm just so mad I could just spit. Please help me to forgive them, and God will help you to forgive. And that's what we would do. So don't go to bed laying down next to each other in the bed as husband and wife and holding grudges, and you each got your backs turned to each other and you're angry. Guess what? The next day, the devil will take a foothold. That's what it says. That's what the Bible says. The Bible verse actually says that. Lest the devil take a foothold, and he will. That bitterness will just continue every day. And then you get into another fight or another argument, and then that gets all blown up out of proportion. So it's important. That really helped a whole lot. Just going to bed, before we go to bed, say, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. And that's one thing. And the other thing is that we're best friends. So I wouldn't want to leave my best friend. So I'd always want my best friend nearby me. Other than Jesus. Jesus, of course, is my best friend. My best, what do you call it, bestie? But my husband is also my best friend. So I wouldn't want to leave my best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, you hear about the 7-year itch thing, and, she was getting nervous around that time. She goes, "You'll leave me?" No, I was going to leave her because, divorce or whatever, it never even entered my mind, no matter how many arguments we got into. So if you don't think about it, you most likely won't even do it or consider it.
So we finished off with tribulations, how to stay together, don't go to bed when you're angry. Anything else you want to share? Should we go on to the next question?
I think that's it for
I think so.
that part. Yeah. Right.
I forgot the next question actually.
How about something on how to deal with illness, sickness? Because
that's trial.
That's one of the vows. You know, through sickness and health, a lot of people will leave if they found out their spouse suddenly has, I don't know, cancer. I've heard of that. People just up and leave and divorce.
Yeah,
Terrible thing.
I've heard of that. I've heard of people leaving around if they can't have kids.
Yeah.
You know, or people leaving around money, for people leaving around infidelity, people leaving for all kinds of reasons, and you know, those are all things you can forgive each other for and move on. But you know,
well, sometimes it's not their fault. They just can't have kids, so
yeah, I know
they didn't do anything wrong.
Exactly, but I've heard of
you know.
I had a cousin like that.
Yeah.
You know, he divorced her because they couldn't have kids, or she couldn't have kids.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, it's sad. But yeah, when I took that vow through sickness and health, I actually was thinking to myself, oh, this is like a regular cold. I can handle that, or a fever. I can handle that. But then there's some major things that go on. I mean, we haven't had any major things other than Mike had a TIA back in September, and I thought he was going to die. I mean, I was thinking, oh, this is it. So I was already preparing mentally for how my life was going to be as a young widow. I mean, young to me is 50s and below. That would be young. But so yeah, it's not easy. But I'm thinking about how these people do it with lifelong illnesses or lifelong ailments. I would think again it's because we're best friends, so I wouldn't want to leave my best friend. I find that hard to do, really, to break off a friendship just because he becomes ill, or what would have I had anything major? I mean, I just have like crippling diseases like osteoarthritis and bulging discs and things, but nothing major per se.
Right.
I don't think so.
We've been very blessed with that. Yeah.
Now, not only is it important to keep your marriage together in Christ, but your own walks with Jesus too. How do you make time for Jesus, and how do you bring that together? Like, do you pray together or read the Bible together? Not every Christian couple does it, depending on time, but would you like to? What are some ideas?
We tried that. We tried the, you know that saying that goes, a family that prays together stays together.
Well,
we tried that as a family. We tried that with me and him, and I get sleepy usually. Even way back then, I would fall asleep, or he would fall asleep, or we both fall asleep. And so we just do our own Bible studies, and I like to do mine first thing in the morning. He likes to do his maybe
a little later
in the day.
Well, after I've woken up.
Right. And so yeah, but we don't, and sometimes we'll pray together if it's something major. Yeah, sure, we're going to pray. And together as a family, something major, like some years ago, there was a group of people that was, and you may have heard of them, they were kidnapped in Haiti, some missionaries, and so we felt led to pray for them every night. And so we gathered around together and we all held hands as a family and we prayed for them. So yeah, that would be like a corporate family prayer that we would do for like huge major things. But just individually, we mostly do it on our own.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And then me and Valentine, and also our my other daughter would join in, and we would do a ladies' Bible studies, like the 6 weeks workbook studies. Those are really wonderful to do. Even if you're single, it's wonderful to do. It keeps you accountable. If you're doing it with a group, it keeps you accountable with each other. But also just keeps the family, us girls, us ladies, close together as mother and daughters. It was a wonderful time together, and Valentine and I still do them together now. My younger daughter is working, so she doesn't have time. But
and I think it also helps to know where the other person is spiritually, too, so that you can know how to pray for them.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think our time is about up. So are there any advice or tips or encouraging words you want to say to singles out there or for married couples?
Well, for singles, don't be in a hurry to get married. Take your time. You know, if you meet somebody, you know, it's like, oh, I want to get married now. It's like, no, take your time. Believe me, you're not ready for this. You know, it's a big undertaking, you know. Or the new thing nowadays is not to get married at all.
Yeah.
And so that's another issue. But, you know, but if you don't get married, then there's no commitment. If somebody gets sick or something, you can leave. No, there's no strings attached, which is unfair for the other person. So, you know, it's best to get married and have a real relationship, a long-lasting relationship. You'll be grateful for that in the end.
Yeah. And along with that, for singles, please don't. I know there's a saying, "Love at first sight," and then you get married. Like you were saying, get to know each other a little bit better before you get married, just because you're attracted to each other. I mean, of course you're going to be attracted to each other. And you know, my husband and I were attracted to each other, but we were friends first before we were attracted to each other.
Attraction is not love.
Right. So I would say that for single people, and yeah, don't be in a hurry to get married. Like he was saying, really get to know each other really well as friends. Yeah, because then it'll be easier for y'all to handle the major stuff together, the major things in life, all the trials that come our way, and then of course keep Jesus at the center, keep Christ at the center of your marriage. I would definitely highly recommend that. Always spend time in God's Word, even if your spouse is not. There's been times where either I didn't spend time with God. It would be like days would lapse, or times that my husband didn't spend time, and then we would encourage each other on. Come on, get back with God. Come on, it's the right thing to do. Do it for the family. Do it for the kids. Do it for the marriage. So yeah, that's very important.
Yeah, and also another thing is, it's important to communicate.
Yeah.
You know, you can get out of the habit of not talking to each other. That's so easy to do.
Right.
And so just tell each other you love each other, and you know, hug and keep that, you know, connection there. Don't break that.
Right.
That, because like it's, you know, the Bible says, you know, you're one flesh. You know, keep it one flesh, and don't say you do your thing, I do mine. You know, try to think of things you can do together. You know, to keep it interesting, and you know, what do you call it?
I don't know, just keeping it together, because I've heard of, even in Christian circles, I've heard of men going to have drinks with guys somewhere, and the women are out shopping somewhere, and then they finally meet in the house, and one is leaving, one is coming and going, and oh, how was your day? Oh, it's great. Bye, I've got things to do.
Right.
Spend some time together and talk to each other how your day was, what you did. I mean, it's okay to go out with your friends. We're not saying that you can't, but don't let that be the highlight of your marriage. The highlight of your marriage should be each other and having Christ in the middle and your family.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for joining me for the Q&A.
Yes, thank you for inviting us.
Thank you for asking questions.
And thank you all for joining us. Let us know if you need any prayer, whether you're single and you have more questions, or if you're married and you're struggling in your marriage and you want to know how to get back on track. Like, we don't have all the answers. Only God has the answers, and only He ultimately can save your marriage. But still, if you have any prayer requests, feel free to leave them down below, or send us an email at forestnamesake106@gmail.com. We'll be happy to help you and pray for you. And on that note, we hope that you like, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you can join us for future videos.
Yes.
And we hope that you have a blessed day. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.